McArthur's role in international social work recruitment began with a focus on child protection services. We'd spent 10 years working with the Department of Health and Human Services in developing their workforce strategy in child protection practitioner recruitment. We furthered this with the need in Australia for senior work practitioners in social work contexts for child protection services and child, youth and family engagement. This led to a collaborative trip to the UK to speak and present to various organisations, local councils and authorities on recruiting and supporting international social workers from the UK and Ireland and South Africa to come to Australia and work with the department under sponsored visa models. From there, we progressed into working with not-for-profit organisations in homelessness, housing, youth services and out-of-home care, and bringing international and supporting international social work practitioners in working in those environments and having influence in Australia's social work practice.
So the University of Southern California was already running a program in the UK where we placed our graduates, our MSW graduates, into jobs in the UK. So these were 2-year positions in different authorities, different organizations, mostly out of Cardiff, a little bit around London. And it was a program that was really successful. Our graduates loved it. It took them international, which they were eager for. And it had an element of research. So during their 2-year placements or their two-year jobs, really, they conducted a bit of research that was to benefit some sort of gap that was existing within that authority. So it was something that just kept snowballing. We had more and more participants each year, and also the participants didn't really leave after 2 years. So the agencies loved them, the authorities loved them, and many of them ended up staying back and progressing in those organizations and making a life there. So we at the university and in our MSW program started to talk about expanding this program to other English-speaking countries, and of course Australia came to mind. At some point we started to reach out to different recruitment agencies in Melbourne, and so we started to plan a trip here. We came out in 2018, was our first trip here, and we met with McArthur. McArthur was one of the agencies or one of the companies that we heard back from, and we got into communication with them, and we had a really positive exchange in our first meeting. We liked the way that McArthur talked about placing people and that side of human services that we cared about. We wanted to obviously put our graduates into good jobs and to be looked after.
The motivation for McArthur to be involved in international social work recruitment was under 4 key points. We saw the development of professional social workers in Australia as a paramount focus for the Australian Association of Social Workers, the Department of Health and Human Services, and for our organisation. We wanted to be a part of that. We saw the international practice that was going on as far as social work goes, a key source of information and influence that we could assist bringing to Australia and having a positive influence on social work practice in Victoria particularly, and also nationally. We saw that the AASW were endeavouring to try and create a licence model structure in Australia, similar to the UK and similar to the US, that would see social workers become a profession and establish itself as a registered practice. We saw that this global movement of social work practice and the information and research that was going on in that environment was something that McArthur as an organisation wanted to be a part of, wanted to be able to help. We knew we could do this through recruiting international social workers, and we knew that we had the capability to support this and network this into those not-for-profit organisations and government departments that required us to help.
Look, there were some challenges. Whenever you talk about people picking up and moving to another country, you're just going to deal with some challenges. That's just the reality of it. But more than anything, there was a lot of enthusiasm. There was a lot of excitement. Our graduates, as we saw with the UK program and now with the Australia program, they want to go international. They want to get involved in these kind of big deal project. We had a pilot program come over at the start of 2020. So I think obviously the biggest challenge after they arrived was COVID kicking in shortly after that, and them dealing with, they were placed mostly in regional Victoria because that is where the workforce is needed for child protection, or that's where it was identified. And so we did have to deal with a bit of, feeling disconnect, obviously the usual of missing family and adjusting to living in a different country. But for the most part, that was addressed with, setting them up to be successful. So figuring out the visa and those logistics and answering all those little questions that they might, be easily thrown off by. So between McArthur and the university, we were able to do that, and we were able to keep supporting them once they were here. I think one of the biggest things that was the most helpful to our graduates in coming over was just logistical support that the department and McArthur helped set up. So there was a relocation package that they were able to access once they got here. Obviously, as a university, it was important for us to have accreditation of our degree here so that our graduates could be recognized for their degree, for their qualification, and also to have an existing social work network for them to plug into a bit once they got here. So we had the AASW evaluate our MSW, and it was their recommendation that people who have graduated from that program are qualified to work as social workers in Australia.
We are planning for international social workers to come back to Australia. We're anticipating a significant number of social work practitioners and interests from overseas countries wanting to come and work and apply their global practices in Australian social work context. We still have a strong database of candidates contacting us regularly, and we are still navigating the Home Affairs Department to organise visas and work with candidates and organisations for looking for placements in Australia and in Victoria. This is something that we see as an ongoing global practice involvement that we want to be a part of. We have a global research project as well that's expanding, particularly in America, where we've gone from one university, elite university in California, to expanding that across the country to over 6 other universities who are showing interest in that. McArthur are looking forward to working with our partners in growing and developing social work practice in Australia.